right, today we're going to be reviewing what we did yesterday about finding a common denominator. Yesterday our learning goal was to find common denominators for unlike fractions, and I think we probably need a little just reminder on those because most of you gave me a 2, 3 when we ended the day. So we're going to go over some of our homework to make sure that we understand everything that we did. Before we go into that, can everyone please tell me what your scale is for what we did yesterday, just so I can kind of get a good feeling about where we are. Okay, good. So we still have some 2s, some 3s, and 4s. Remember, I can sit down. Okay. All right, so in order to do a common denominator, the first thing we have to do is find that least common multiple, like we did Tuesday, I think is when we did that one. So in your homework, we had the problem 5/12 and 7/9. Okay? The first thing that we did was we found the the multiple. Yes, Kevin? No? Okay. So we took the denominators 9 and 12, listed out the multiples for both of them, to find the first multiple that was found in both numbers. Are we okay with that one so far? That part, I think, we have a good handle on. It was renaming the fractions that gave us a little bit of an issue. Okay? So 36 is the common multiple, therefore 36 is the common denominator. That was the first few problems of your homework. You just had to find what that common denominator was. Give me a scale for that one, just finding that common denominator. Okay, we feel pretty confident with that one? All right. The next problem that we had was 7/8 and 5/6. They wanted us to not only find the common denominator, but they wanted us to rename the fraction. Okay? So what's the first step that we do? Andrea?
Multiply both denominators.
That's one way that you could do it. You could multiply them together to get that one. What's another way, Nada?
Find the common denominator, which is 24.
Okay, how did you get that?
Because I know that 8 times 3 equals 24, and 6 times 4 equals 24.
Okay, excellent. So you already knew in your head what the multiples were. Let's write it out so we can give those that need the visual picture what they need. So let's count by 8s. What do we get? What comes after 8? 16, 24. Count by 6s. 6,
12, 18, 24.
So that's the first multiple that we come across. That's the same. Okay? So that's going to become our common denominator. So we're going to have our 7/8 over 24. And we're going to have our 5/6 over 24. Can someone raise their hand and tell me what that step was to rename them? Kevin? Okay, who can help them out? Walter.
You could go look at the denominator and see what 8 times whatever equals 24.
Perfect. So what times 8 gives you 24?
3.
Okay? So whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the denominator. Perfect. So what is 7 times 3?
21.
21. Good. How did I get 24 from 6? Chanelli?
Times 4.
Times 4. So I'm going to do 5 times 4, and what did I get?
20.
20. Okay? That's what we did yesterday. Just renaming the fractions, finding that common denominator. How do we feel about that? Show me. Okay, good. All right. So what we're going to do today is take it a little bit further and do addition with fractions of unlike denominators. So our learning goal for today is I will be able to add fractions with unlike denominators. We've got to keep our scale in mind. Can someone tell me what a 4 is? Andrea?
I understand it and I can teach it.
You can teach it. I can sit down. What's a 3? Valentina? Valentina.
I got it.
I've got it, but I can't teach it. A 2, Denzel.
I need more practice.
We need more practice. Good. And a 1, Eager.
You don't have it.
I don't have it. Don't have a clue.
Another-
You're speaking another language. Okay, so keep that in mind as we're going through examples. Okay? So here is our word problem. Over the weekend, Emmanuel ate 1/4 box of cereal and Nicholas ate 3/8 of the same box. What portion of the box of cereal did they eat in all? What do you think the first thing we have to do?
Probably. Add the two fractions
How did you know that it was addition?
because it says what portion of the box cereals did they eat and all, and I know that to get that I have to add it together.
Very good. What are we going to be adding together, Nada? Yes, we're going to be adding those fractions, and the first thing we have to do is, number 1, do they have the same denominator?
No.
Nope. So we have to rename or find the equivalent fraction in order to add them together. Walter,
Are we supposed to simplify that or simplify that? Or not?
you will simplify at the very end. Okay? Don't try to simplify when you're adding it, because then you won't have a common denominator. Very good question. Okay? So we have 1/4. And we're going to add 3/8. Remember how I want you to write your fractions so that you have plenty of space to do your work. Okay? If you try to squeeze it into one line, it gets messy. Okay? Are we good so far with that part?
Yes.
Pretty straightforward with that part. Okay? Now we're taking into what we've done with common multiples, common denominators, and then to add. Okay? So, if I think about what is a common denominator for 4 and 8? Alexander.
You do
You forgot? Okay, Nada.
1/4
You got 24. How'd you get 24?
because 4 times 6 equals 24 and 8 times 3
Okay, so you could use 24. Is there another one that we could use, John Paul?
16.
We could use 16. Chanel? Why don't we just use 8? Is 8 a multiple of 4?
Yes.
Yes. We already have one fraction as over an 8. So why do more work than we have to, right? Yes, Andrea?
For the denominators, do we have to get a common denominator to be able to do the addition?
Exactly. Those denominators have to be the same. Okay? So we're going to rename those fractions so that we have 8 as our common denominator. How do we feel about that part? Show me with your C. Okay. We're going back to, remember, yesterday we talked about finding a common denominator. That's all we're going to do right now. Okay? What's our common denominator? 8. So we're going to change these fractions to be over 8.
Thank you.
So, what does 1/4 turn into to be over 8? Walter.
8 or 4?
What's the numerator going to be?
4?
Okay, how do we get from 4 to 8?
2.
We multiply by 2, right? So what do we have to do to the numerator?
Due to the denominator.
The numerator we have to multiply by 2.
Yes. Whatever you do to the denominator, you have to do to the numerator. Do we have to change this fraction here?
No.
We can keep it the same. Why? Good.
Because the denominator is the same.
Denominator is the same, so we don't have to touch it. Okay? So, do you remember in topic 7 where we added the fractions?
Yeah. Yes.
Same thing here. We've got a common denominator, so we can add them. So Daniel, what do we get?
5/8.
Yeah.
That easy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Check your math.
Oh,
We keep the denominator, remember, because we never change. We never add those denominators together. Don't touch those.
Because I didn't remember. Because it's easier for me than to do it
Like this?
Yeah, but like 2 plus 2 8 plus 8 like.
Oh, written like this?
Yeah,
Okay,
because it got me confused.
right. The reason why I wrote it vertical this time is so that you could go ahead and change it into the equivalent fractions. If you want to then rewrite it to be written horizontal, 2/8 plus, oops, not 2/3. If you want to rewrite it like that, you can.
So like in the book instead of writing it down.
Yeah. You do it how you best want it, okay? As long as you get the same answer as I do, more power to you. Okay? Andrea?
So pretty much you have to see if the 4 can be turned into an 8 for both of them to be the denominator, but for both to be an 8.
Yes. Because we found a common denominator of 8. Now we'll have other problems where we have to change both of them, but it just so happens that 8's a common denominator. Okay? How do we feel about this one? Okay, good. Chanel, did you have a question?
So every time the denominator is different, you have to remove.
Yes. Yep, because in order to add the fractions together, they have to be the same denominator. Okay? You ready to try another one?
Yeah.
Okay. So that was in word problem form. And in this lesson, we are just adding. Okay? I went ahead and wrote out the guided problems here. Okay, you try the first one, and then I'll check and see how you've got it. In problem number 1, it's already converted it to a common denominator. You see how they've already switched it over? So what would our answer be, Karina?
15 8.
Check again. 9 plus 4. Mary Jane?
13.
13. That's okay. Yes, Andrea.
So we don't add the 1/2 and 2 ninths.
Can you add the 1/2 and the 2 ninths?
No, because
Why
the
not?
denominator not the same.
Exactly. In this example, it went ahead and already told you what the common denominator was. So 1/2 equals 9/18, and 2 ninths equals 4/18. Okay, does everyone see that? Any questions on that one? Yes? Oh, are you okay? All right, now number 2 says 2/6 and 3/8. What's the first thing we have to do?
Find common denominator.
Find a common denominator. What would be a common denominator for 6 and 8? Karina?
24.
Ooh, I like 24. You guys like 24?
Yeah.
So if we change it to be 24, what is 2/6 going to turn into? John Paul? Can you say it a little louder for me? Thank you. We multiply by what? 4, right? Oh, what's the matter?
Like I'm lost.
What are you lost on?
Like how you get 24.
Okay, remember going back to our least common multiple, I list out the multiples of 6 and 8. Count by 6s. 6, good. 8, who did it have the same? That's how we got the 24.
Oh.
Okay, got that
Oh,
part?
then it's just,
Remember that when we did the least common multiple?
Yeah.
Okay, that's how we got the 24. Alright, the next problem, I'll do that as well. Did you even see that? Karina? Not yet, because we can't add, okay, until we rename them. How to get from 8 to 24? Nada?
Multiply it by 3.
Okay. So what's 3 times 3, Evener?
6.
3 times 3?
9.
There you go. I know you were adding. And then what do?
Add.
We add what numbers?
The numerators.
Mario, what do we add?
I'm confused.
What are you confused on?
Like, how do you get the numerator?
Okay, since you were absent yesterday, that's a lesson that you missed, so we'll work together on that. Okay? But do you remember from last topic when we just added fractions together with the same denominator? Okay? We're at that point now, so what do? Can you see it okay? The 9 and the 8. Yes. What's 8 plus 9?
8 plus 9, 17.
There you go. Okay? We'll talk about renaming those fractions. That was yesterday. Mary Jane.
But why did you multiply by 3?
Because 8 times 3 is 24. So you have to do the same thing 3 times 3. Do you see that? Okay.
But why do you have to do the same thing to the numerator?
Because you have to, that's a rule, you have to multiply by the same thing. It's like multiplying by one whole, and one whole has the same numerator and denominator. Because if you multiply it by a different number, you're not going to get an equivalent fraction. Remember when we were making the equivalent fractions yesterday? You won't get equivalent. Okay? Alright. Now try number 3. Yes, Kevin.
I get like the top and have multiply to see like how does it get like the number 2 like 20 8 times or 6 times 4 equals 28 so 24 and so the same thing that we did so 6 times 4 you have to do it to the numerator.
Uh-huh.
I don't get what you have to do to the denominator.
So do you do 8 times what is equal to 24? Yes. You have to do it. So do not multiplying by the same number.
6 and it could be both turned into 24.
Okay? Alright, try number 3. Number 3 is 1/4 plus 7/10.
Two, yeah.
How many times 10 goes into 20?
Yeah, I mean 4 and 10.
Yep.
No, 1.
Yep. Good. Good. So you're moving up. Good.
If it's 20, it has to multiply by 2.
Are you dividing?
No, multiplying by 2.
Uh-huh.
So you can't multiply by 2.
Why can't you?
Is that only
You're not dividing. You're not dividing.
7 times.
7 times 2 is what?
Yeah, like, okay. So,
1 times 2 is 4.
so 10.
You're thinking you're dividing or finding factors. Just multiply. Okay? You sure? Okay. You guys got it? Yeah? Oh wait. How do you get from 4 to 20? 5. 4 times what equals 20? Is it 4 times 2? 4 times 2 is 20?
No.
No, what is it? 8 times 4 is 20?
No.
What times 4 gives you 20?
Oh, 5.
Yes, you have 4 times 5. You got it? Okay, what did you get for an answer? Well, first, let's rename the fraction. Walter.
1/4. Let's see, it'd be 24. No, 20.
20. You got 20. Now, any questions on how you got 20? Oh, you're saying with that one? Okay.
By 4, you got by 5 times 5. 5. And, for 10, 2. 2, yep, and 14. Added together be 19, 20th.
Very good, Walter. Got it.
Yes. Wait, what happened?
Give me a scale on that if you got that one. Okay, do you see your mistake though?
Yeah.
Okay, what was your question, Jake?
I don't get it, like, the number, like,
Which number?
the 5 and 14.
Okay. Do you see how we got 20 as a common denominator? Are you sure about that? Okay. So, if I have 4, what do I have to multiply by 4 to get 20? 5, right? Whatever I do to the denominator, I gotta do to the numerator. Because we're multiplying by 1 to find an equivalent fraction. Okay? So 1 times 5 is what? 5. You got that part? Okay? This one? We multiply by 2, right? So 7 times 2 is? So use that instead. You got that? Okay, try number 4, and then I'll give you some independent practice. Number 4 is 5/12 plus 1/8. Good? Good? Check your math. Check your math. 8 times what? Did you do it for? Check your multiplication. Okay. I think because you wrote the fraction wrong. It's 5/12. And 1/8. That would make a huge
That's what happened
difference.
to me last night in homework.
Yes.
I kept doing like, where did I get it?
Oh.
What did people say? It's like
Okay, what was our common denominator? 24, right? Yeah, use that tool. Okay. What's the equivalent fraction to 5/12 over 24? 10. Good. And then 1/8 into 24 is what? Kevin. 8 times what gives you 24? 3. So 1 times 3 is 3. 3. And then 10 plus 3? 13 over 24. Alright, so going back to our learning goal of I will be able to add fractions with unlike denominators, give yourself a 1 through a 4.
So we could simplify it.
If you need to simplify it, go ahead. If the instructions tell you to. I want you to make sure you understand, number 1, do I have to change the to find the common denominator, then add them together. As long as you get that down first, we'll worry about simplifying down the road. But I just want you to understand that part first. Okay? Alright, I want you to do your independent practice. Okay, and in your quick check, I will call over people for additional assistance if you gave me a 2 or 1. We're just going to do 1 through 4. Okay? Alright.